Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the exploration of the Pathways program electives. Are you as excited as I am? Thumbs up? I hope you will be by the time I get done today. My name is Trish Blackwelder, and for those of you who don't know me as well as others that are in this space, there's a reason for the long list of credentials on this particular event opening. I am not trying to brag, okay? You see, there's a story behind this sequence here, and it's relevant to our topic tonight. So bear with me for just just a minute or so. I am a 5-time DTM. And that came about as a result of two things: competition with 2 other Toastmasters and a 6-manual formula that I was using to expedite those paths to DTMs. That's how I got the 5. So my reveal today is this. For me, the educational program had become a routine, only to continue churning out awards for my clubs. My learning had stagnated. Okay, I've admitted it. But then came Pathways, and I stepped up as an ambassador or guide to be on the inside to find out what Pathways was going to be all about. Then a past leader, and it wasn't Nancy Starr Cassidy, by the way, a past leader challenged me to become as knowledgeable about the nooks and crannies of Pathways as I had been about the traditional program, darn them. And I took on that challenge. The second thing that happened is my personal ethic that I will never stand in front of a group of people like you and talk about something that I don't have personal experience with. I always walk my talk. So because of those two things, you see the string of pathway achievements then in the next line. Yes, I have achieved the Pathways Mentor designation, and I have completed 2 full paths, plus I'm halfway through 2 more. And my DTM, okay, before you ask, is on the target to be done by the end of this term. All right, now, the next thing. All of that experience then led to me becoming the District 3 Pathways Chair so that I could transfer the knowledge that I had and help solve for the pain points of our members. And that's what brought me to today. My exploration into pathways has led me into all the nooks and crannies. And because of that, I am announcing that my next to the last expedition is this presentation that you're seeing tonight. And the odd thing about it is I'm really surprised that I saved the electives for my next to the last journey, because I've been talking about personalizing your Toastmasters program since 1997. So why I didn't hook onto the electives right from the get-go is beyond me. But regardless, we are finally here, and it's time to share my excitement with you and what I've discovered about these electives. So are we ready? Thumbs up? Let's go. All right. Eleanor Roosevelt said that with freedom comes responsibility, and that is so true with Pathways electives. Gone are the static 5 and 10 project manuals, those repeatable manuals that I used to make those 5 DTMs, and we're digging now into the current 27 electives that our members are facing in Pathways. Just what are those 27 electives going to mean to each of our members? Well, let's start with the pain points first. All right. If you are a member that is on the print option, you will not have the benefit of being able to choose any electives. For printed options, the electives are pre-chosen for members. For level 3, they get connect with storytelling and deliver social speeches. For level 4, they get the question and answer session. And for level 5, they get the lessons learned project, okay? Now, there's nothing wrong with those projects, but it kind of reminds me of churning through the manuals. I would never get a choice. Those would always be the electives that I'm going to get regardless of what path I choose. So I understand that there are some people that have to be on the print option, but my heart feels for them a little bit. The second thing is, in my 2 years as Pathways Chair, I heard so many members talking about too many choices in Pathways. There was that original 5-tile landing page. Which way do I go? What tile do I choose? The menus options across the top in Basecamp. The the breadcrumb menus across the top of the transcript area. They were all duplicative menus that took you to the same places, but just always in your way. And then there was how to filter out the noise of the multiple languages for every category of resources that we had. And last but not least, having to look at 5 paths and trying to figure out which one you were going to choose for yourself. So 27 electives is going to sound probably too many again, but I think when we get done tonight, you're going to find out how well they can actually work for you. So let's move on to the benefits then of having the 27. Never before in Toastmasters will you have the opportunity to so personalize your learning. The flexibility and the interactive approach of Pathways just lends itself so well to being able to customize your learning path regardless of which path you choose. You will still be able to add your own personal touch to it by the electives that you choose. And you can choose those electives then based on needs or interests. So depending on what's important for you at that point in your life, you can choose the ones that best suit you. And since fall of last year, they have opened up the entire path for every member, which means you have access to every project in your path from the beginning, and you can look ahead. And if you see an elective that can suit a situation you're being presented with in life now, you can go ahead and complete the elective ahead of the other level work. So much flexibility, again, in how you're working and how you prioritize your path projects. So let me just pause and see if anybody had any questions about those things. If you, Marilyn is helping moderate the chat for me tonight since I can't see the chat window. So Marilyn, do we have any questions out there? No? Okay. All right, then we're moving on. Electives come into play in level 3. So we are not going to be talking about level 1 and 2 tonight. We're going to start with level 3. And when you hit level 3, there are 2 big benefits that you get. The first one is you can start asking for letters to go to your employer for the achievements that you complete in your Pathways learning experience. So don't forget that when you go to submit a level completion, that you let your vice president of education or one of your Basecamp managers know that you want to have a letter sent to your employer, and make sure to provide them the contact information for that. The other thing is what we're talking about tonight, and that is the ability to choose electives. As I've been mentioning, there are 27 electives across the path, across a path. 13 will be presented to you in level 3, 8 will be in level 4, and 6 will be in level 5. These electives are the same regardless of path. So some people will say, well, can't I just do them all in my first path? Yeah, technically you can, but it won't help you earn educational awards for your club's credit towards the Distinguished Club Program, or for you to get educational credit. So when you think about it, it's better to choose the number of electives that you need to do to continue to move forward in your path, and plan on picking up those other electives as you continue through your educational programs. I'll give you an instance of something that I've just done. I mentioned earlier that I've completed 2 paths. One of them was presentation mastery. And what I learned about presentation mastery was that it's the ultimate flexibility path. It is focused entirely on speaking, no leadership requirements whatsoever. And because of the electives, I can do that path over and over again and make it interesting. Presentation mastery lends itself perfectly to things like ad hoc speeches, a keynote speech, a prepared speech, something that I just thought of today and I'm going to go ahead and write a speech about it. It's like every project is open for any kind of topic that you want to choose. So I have decided I will always have an active instance of presentation mastery in my Basecamp, because I can always go to it anytime I need speech credit for a presentation that I'm going to give. It's something I tell you about because you might want to consider looking at that option for yourself as well. Some of the paths that you choose will have leadership requirements, and they can slow down your progress because of the length of time it takes to complete the projects. That's why another reason why having the presentation mastery path always available to you allows you to continue to keep moving forward and speaking at a good clip. Okay. All right. Before you leave tonight, you will be getting this document. Marilyn has it all queued up. She's going to put it in the chat for you to be able to download when we get to the end of the presentation. I'm putting caveats on this document. This is the result of my exploration of the Pathways elective projects, but it was not designed to be a recruiting tool or something that you would share with a brand new member, like don't put it in a new member kit. It's overwhelming a bit when you look at it. It's really designed to be a coaching tip sheet. It has all the relevant information about the project descriptions, but not everything from the project descriptions. There's still benefit in going in and reading a project description before you make your final choice. But it's high-level information here for coaches and mentors to be able to help have the conversation with a member about how to narrow down the noise and reduce the number of choices that they are going to consider when they're ready to choose an elective. Okay. It will tell you what path it's a requirement in, which is also another thing that's good to know, so that if you know you're going to be doing presentation mastery and it's a requirement in level 2, then you don't need to do that elective for another path that you're working on. All right, Marilyn, you're on mute, but are there any questions out there? Nope. Okay, we'll keep going then. Let's break down level 3. 13 electives are available to you in level 3, 2 are required. And one of my standards for all the exploration and the nooks and crannies of Pathways that I've been doing comes down to this. Can it still be explained based on communication and leadership track, which is something we've been using in this organization for decades? And the answer to the electives is yes, it can. And you see here how it is divided into communication and leadership. In level 3 in particular, you can actually have 2 types of communication, one specifically designed for new members and the other for seasoned members. So let's look at what I'm calling the core competencies for new members on the far left-hand side of the slide. For those of you who are missing the Competent Communicator Manual, and I include myself in that, you'll notice that the names of these projects are very familiar. Effective body language, inspire your audience, understand vocal variety using descriptive language. Active listening is kind of the newbie, but it is a take from the Competent Leader Manual, but it's a little different. The active listening project will require that the member serve as the topics master for the meeting, but the evaluation isn't about the role. It's about the feedback that they give between the topic speakers in their role as topics master. So the evaluation is very much a communication focus with an assessment of the listening skills of the member fulfilling the role of topics master. It's a different take. Effective body language will expand the scope of body language to bring in more focus on nonverbal skills. So it's not just gestures, it's not just facial expression, it's body language, it's using pause, using a gesture, using some type of positioning to add and enhance your speech. And that brings, again, the evaluation factor to a broader scope when you're evaluating someone doing the effective body language project. Inspire your audience adds not only inspiration, but is looking specifically for how you elicit a positive response from your audience. Understanding vocal variety is not just up and down or fast or slow, but it's truly using your voice as a full enhancement in your speech. And then descriptive language is not just the words you choose, but will they add interest? Do they add impact? Do they make for vivid descriptions of what you're talking about? And the evaluations have been adjusted accordingly to call out these specific elements about these expanded scopes. So these are designed, or they're still available there for all the newer members that are still getting used to, working on their public speaking skills. We can give them these core competencies that we've always counted on the competent communicator to do. Any questions about these? All right, is anybody awake? Okay, just making sure. All right, so seasoned members. It starts to get more exciting now. All right. Storytelling is the rage these days. Public speakers, we saw it all over the international convention this week. Public speakers everywhere are starting to do more around a storytelling approach. And Connect with Storytelling is now available at level 3 as an elective. The story can be fictional or non-fictional, but the point is, how well can you tell a story? So again, if this is a passion of yours, you can continue to repeat this elective every time you hit level 3 in any path. It'll always be there for you. Connect with your audience is a brand new one. And connect with your audience is, there's a test in how you're going to be evaluated here. The challenge for your topic is to present a topic you know your audience is unfamiliar with. And your evaluator is going to be gauging then how well you grab the attention of your audience and kept their interest and got them involved in something that they can then learn, because it's something they didn't know anything about. So there's a little twist in how you prepare for this one. Creating effective visual aids kicks it up another notch because it requires that you pick a topic that lends itself to visual aids and include 1 to 3 visual aids in your presentation. Delivering social speeches came out of an advanced manual from the traditional program. You'll give 2 different speeches, 4 to 6 minutes, as I recall, and they have to be at 2 different events or meetings. The eulogy is still one of the choices. It's not my personal favorite, but it is out there, and I know people have done very well with that one. But it is social occasion speeches, definitely a point of reference for how you're going to prepare for those speeches. And then, of course, we move on to, well, let me ask, are there any questions about those 4? Okay.
I have a comment.
Yes.
At our last meeting, someone did a speech, and it was the coolest way that he used 3 or 4 screens, but he didn't share his screen. He used the picture as his backdrop, and I know not everybody's computer can do that, but it was so amazing because it didn't minimize him. It just was there as he was talking about skiing. We saw the ski slope behind him, and then the classroom that he taught in. And anyways, it was really quite phenomenal.
No, that's a great comment. Thank you so much. I'm in another online club that has members from around the world in it, and we just had a member show us how that could be done. And there are technological requirements that you have to be able to support to be able to do it. But he did his speech the same way, with using a PowerPoint slide as his background. And so it is a great, cool skill. If you are learning to master your virtual space, then it's a cool skill that you'll want to be able to practice. And this gives you the perfect opportunity to do it. Thank you for sharing. Then we have the leadership side. Okay, there are 4 leadership projects, and all of these will require, all of these do not require a team. These are independent member leadership projects. So it's about learning to the objective of level 3, which is increasing knowledge. It's about learning more about you and your skills and your perspectives, and then bringing that forward into study and into the speech. So during the Focus on the Positive project, you'll keep a daily log of your interactions with other people and the reactions that they are giving you, and then you'll produce a learning experience speech about the results. Making connections through networking will challenge you to actually attend a networking event. So there'll be preparation, there'll be a tracker, and then you'll go to the event, and then again, you'll report on your experience. I'm going to skip interview for just a minute. Presentation software, again, will ask you to look in and assess different presentation softwares, and learning a software strategy and identifying topics that are best suited for slides. And then we have the interview. The interview is a role play, and you need to pick carefully when you pick your role play partner. I'll share that story later. But the idea here is that you will role play an actual interview situation as your deliverable on the speech project. All right, so already, are you getting a little more excited about electives? Anybody have one that's really popping off the page that they'd like to share? You can unmute yourself and tell us. Oh, you guys. Okay. I have an announcement to make. I almost forgot, but I saw my red star to remind myself. There's a new twist on completing level 3 in Pathways. We just had a member that ran into this a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't figure out why they couldn't get their level 3 to mark itself as done and submit for Basecamp Manager approval. So in working through that and trying to figure out why, we finally got to the bottom of it. Remember back when Pathways was deploying, and we were talking about the universal profile up in the right-hand corner of your Basecamp screen? Yeah, you go into the universal profile, and it has where you can put all the dates for the roles that you serve in your meetings. Well, if anybody was like me, they probably kind of said, okay, well, I'll do that for a while, and then you stop doing it. Well, this member had never put any dates in their universal profile. And there's a trigger now in Basecamp that if the member doesn't have the dates for Topics Master, Toastmaster, and Evaluator loaded in their universal profile, the level 3 will not let it complete and go to Basecamp Manager for approval. So gotcha. Something that you'll want to make sure that you're talking about again in new member orientation if you have not been talking about it. Okay. Let's go to level 4. Oh,
I do have a question about that.
Sure.
Sorry, I
No, it's okay.
you. But that, I don't know what you're talking about, those 3 things. So are those speeches, or are those roles? If they use those roles, if they're in the role, they need to go in and post the date that they did that role.
Yes.
In order to move on.
So when I serve as Topics Master in my club, I go out to my universal profile and I put the date that I served as topics master. Then I do the same thing for when I serve as Toastmaster and the same thing when I serve as an evaluator. And if you want to go back in and update those dates each time you serve, you can. But the point here is that you must at least enter a date in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Uh,
Was there another question?
yes.
Yes.
So I have a member that has recently done that and he couldn't understand why I couldn't promote it. So I'm asking, what about level 4? Because he had 3 and 4 done.
It's only level 3. There is a requirement, and we talked about it during deployment, but it kind of has fallen by the wayside. There was a requirement that in order to enter level 4, you would have to have served as Toastmaster, Topics Master, and an evaluator.
Okay.
And the question,
this problem.
yeah, the question we kept asking World Headquarters was, well, what about Toastmaster? There's no specific project for Toastmaster. So how is the system going to know? And now the system, they figured out how the system is going to know. They're going to drive it off the dates being entered for those roles.
Okay. Could you go back one slide, please?
Sure.
Now, Trish, I have a little thing where I'm on YouTube and I do a cooking show.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking I could do that with presentation software.
Absolutely. I don't see any reason why
It's not
not.
a slide, but it's like a 3 to 5 minute thing on how to, I call it batch pad living, because in the summer I'm in a batch pad. My wife's over in Scotland, so I have to cook for myself. So I'm thinking other guys, you know, just some of them, well, I'll go to Arby's tonight, or, oh, tonight's a big night, I'll go to McDonald's, or maybe I'll have Papa Murphy's tonight. So I try to show guys how to cook for themselves.
Oh, I'm going to have to find this. That sounds interesting.
Okay, good.
You just need to read, again, pull the project description and read the expectations, the objectives and purpose of the project. And my position as a VPE has always been to ensure the project delivers to the spirit of the objectives of the project. So if that works, then I say you can go for it.
Okay, thanks, Trish.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to level 4. Level 4. Oops.
Before you head on.
Uh-huh.
So back one slide, please. Sorry for
No, it's okay.
lagging here. So core competencies versus communication.
They're both communication.
Right.
The projects are all geared towards the communication track more than the leadership track. Okay.
Okay, but for new members, you call it core competencies, and for seasoned members, communication. What's the diff?
Because the ones that you're seeing under the core competencies heading are very similar to the projects that we always had in the competent communicator manual.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
some of the complaints that I get from members is that the competent communicator, or the CC, was a grounding manual for every new member. And their concern was that we've lost that. And I've been pointing out where the CC is in Pathways for 2 years now. And I just like to reinforce that these 5, or the 4 of these 5, are coming straight across from the competent communicator manual.
Okay, gotcha.
Good question.
I just wanted to ask real fast. You were talking about noting all your roles that you
Yes.
fulfilled. Do you ever have to update them? Would they ever check to make sure that they're within a certain amount of time, like not more than like 4 years old or something like that?
Not that I'm aware of today. I can't predict the future, but today there just needs to be a date in the field.
Okay, thanks.
There's no check on how recent it was that I'm aware of. Thank you. Okay, last call. Anything else around level 3? All right, on to level 4. The number of electives that you'll be presented here has been reduced to 8. and you'll be required to pick one. Okay. If you're The focus here in level 4 is in building skills, so it should be no surprise that each of the electives here will require a deliverable of some kind, as well as the speech. Okay, again, we can fit them into the categories of communication or leadership, and most of these are all new to us. Okay. Building a social media presence is so timely for today. So is podcasts, so is blogging. There's a little hiccup in the public relations strategies that I'm going to mention in just a minute. But for the current relevant skills for today, these 3 offerings for social media presence, podcast, and compelling blog are compelling, to say the least. The podcast was one that I had checked off, and then I scratched through it, and then I checked it off, and I scratched it again, and I kept putting it back, in the folder, and I said, no, I'm not going to do this one. I'm not going to do this one. And then I decided I was going to do it. So my 6th story here is that I spent an entire 3-day weekend writing the 60 minutes of content and learning how to record my content into something that could be publishable. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to take 72 hours. I took 72 hours because I got totally enthralled in this project. We always think about writing a story for a 5 to 7 minute speech. I got to write a 60-minute story. I got to go into not real deep detail, but I got to do all the nuances and the little diversions and the highs and the lows and everything in the story. And the story just kept evolving. And the 60 minutes turned out to be nothing to have to write. The other interesting thing for me was I'd never recorded myself for a speech and listened as a listener would. I always think about recording my speech and how are my gestures and what are my facial expressions and all that nonverbal communication stuff. But when a podcast, everybody only listens. That's all there is. So it took 3 or 4 recordings before I got into a recording voice. It's a different pace. It's a different volume. It's a little deeper, because then it comes across in a very friendly, audible way that can just enthrall you and envelop you. And it was so much fun. This project is one of the ones that totally lit me on fire for getting back into learning. I am now going to take on the blog next. I'm doing the social media presence, but I do have to give you the little gotcha about the public relations strategies one. Well, you think, okay, well, it's no big deal. I'll just pick a project and I'll write a public relations strategy for it and I'll present it in my club. Oh, no. You can do that as long as your public relations strategy topic is not your club's public relations program. That is reserved for the Vice President of Public Relations and only the Vice President of Public Relations. And if you want to do a public relations strategy speech about your own club, you need to get permission from your Vice President of Public Relations to do it. I thought that was a clever twist to that one. All right, let's move on to the leadership side. On the leadership side, these, for the most part, are not done inside a club meeting. They're done outside the club meeting. You're going to manage an online meeting that is a minimum of 20 to 25 minutes. And this has to include visual aids. For the managed project successfully, you're going to have to recruit a team, put a plan together, and fulfill the plan with your team, and then write about the learning experience. For managing, I'm going to say that one. For question and answer, again, you're going to do a question and answer session outside of a club meeting. And there are cool tracking tools that you're going to use to capture the results of that session. So this is an ideal one for you to do in the workplace if you've been doing like a debrief kind of meeting on something that your team has been working on. It would be the perfect kind of situation for this particular kind of project. Now, let's go back to managing a difficult audience. I've seen this done two ways. One was me as the speaker. I did this project in one of my clubs. I gave the scripts. I picked seasoned Toastmasters, and I'm going to tell you, they were brutal. They really were brutal. In fact, some of the feedback that I got after the meeting in the post-toasty portion was that I had been really brave to do this project with that group because they were a really tough audience. On the other hand, I saw this presented in another one of my clubs, and I could hardly tell who the disruptors were. They were so nice to the speaker. I was jealous. I thought, wow. So my lesson or my takeaway here on managing a difficult audience is setting up the role play is key, and how you select the people that are going to be your disruptors may involve some coaching, but you should always make sure that they disrupt to the point of the skill level that you think that you're at, that you're really trying to put to the test. Okay. So managing a difficult audience, again, that one is done inside a club. It can be done inside the club meeting, but be careful who you pick. All right, any comments or questions around level 4 items? Okay, we're whizzing along. You have me worried. Okay, level 5, we have reached level 5. Okay, here the number of electives is reduced to 6 and 1 is still required. You'll notice that 3 of these have little red asterisks by them. That's because each of those projects will require that you complete a 360-degree feedback exercise with the folks that helped you with your project. All right. Some of these can be completed outside of the club. Some can be done with the club, but there are some, again, nuances in here that I want to make sure that I call out for you. Lessons learned is meant to be completed outside of the club meeting as a group meeting, and the use of several resource documents to capture results, metrics, and responses. Your speech is to be a reflection on the leadership experience of the entire project. For prepare to speak professionally, you are to deliver a keynote to a Toastmaster or non-Toastmaster group, and it's an 18 to 22-minute keynote. I was fortunate enough to have gotten called in at the last minute to fill in for a keynote speaker when I was in like level 2 of my Pathways project. And I grabbed this project and ran with it and used it for when I gave the keynote speech, and then held on to that credit until I reached level 5. Oftentimes though, arranging to be a keynote speaker has lead time required to it. So again, you need, the good thing about knowing what these projects are expecting is that you can prepare your schedule for the one that you want to choose. Ethical leadership on the leadership side is one I can't wait to get to. My biggest challenge is finding the right audience to do this in. It involves a reflection on one's own ethical framework and then arrange for a 20 to 40-minute open discussion on ethics in either an organization or in a community. I'm fascinated by this project and I can't wait until I find the right setting to do it. High performance leadership has not changed substantially from the high performance leadership project that we know and love from the traditional program. Still requires a minimum of 3 team members, 5 guidance committee meetings that have to be held. So think in terms of a 6-month project for your high performance leadership project. And then you'll still give 2 speeches, your vision and then your outcomes. The only difference here is the addition of the 360-degree feedback at the conclusion. And as we continue to evolve Pathways, you're going to see more and more of this. There were announcements made during the International Convention about the value of the 360 feedback exercises for training leaders. So you're seeing 3 here at this level. Leading in your volunteer organization is kind of the lead up to a high performance leadership project. It does require 6 months in a leadership role, and that can be a Toastmasters role or a non-Toastmasters role. It does require, again, the 360 feedback, but your deliverable here is that you will prepare a succession plan and use it to transition out of your role and in to the person that will be replacing you. So your concrete deliverable is to prepare that succession plan and then execute it. To moderate a panel discussion, you will not only facilitate a panel, but your learning in this project will also include the perspective of being a panelist on a panel. And that helps you then as the moderator in how to prep and coach your panelists for your panel discussion. So again, another layer of learning there. So that completes the 6 electives that you'll choose from in level 5. Any questions here?
Trish, it's Wendy. I have a question about the 360 feedback.
Yes.
Can you describe that just a little bit more? Do you have to send out to everybody that was in attendance, or how does it work?
Well, let's say I was doing 6 months on a leadership role, okay? And let's say I was using my term as club president. Totally legit. You can use that. That's a 6-month leadership role. It can be a year in some clubs, but the 6 month is the minimum. And then at the end of that 6 months, you're going to send a form out to all the members on the officer team and ask them for feedback on your job as a leader. Now, some people get really scared by this kind of thing, but in my workplace, we do it all the time, and I have now learned to appreciate the value of those 360 feedbacks. There are 2 in the mentoring program that you had to do, and so I was very anxious to see what my 2 proteges had to say about me as a mentor at the end of the mentoring projects. And it was eye-opening for both of us because I gave them feedback as well as them giving me feedback. And the good news is we're still friends. Okay, so there is a lot of value in that 360 feedback. I can remember when I was a newer member and I got in a heated debate with the current district governor at the time about why we don't have a channel for giving feedback to our leaders. Well, here it is. It's here now. So like I said, they'd asked this week at International Convention that we're going to be seeing more of this across the leadership roles in the organization in order to solicit that kind of feedback and help raise our leaders up to be better leaders. Did that help?
Helped a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trish, I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
So the 360 feedback exercise, does the Pathway program provide like questions for the,
Yes.
to ask for the feedback? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So basically like using the form and questions to work with the ones who observed your performance.
Yeah, it's not an evaluation form per se. It's thoughtful questions that you need to be able to respond to about if you're the protege, like in the mentor program, about things that the mentor was supposed to have done, and how well they did them. And then free form too, what went really well, what would you offer? I like to call it the stop, start, continue. There'll be some probing, or some encouragement to provide feedback on things that the leader should stop doing, things that they should start doing, and also, I just lost my own train of thought. Continue. Things they should continue doing. I have to say it again to pick it back up. So things that they do really well, they should continue. Things that they do not so well, here's some suggestions. You do it good, but you could do it better.
Okay.
And then things that you're not doing that you probably should consider starting doing. Okay?
I see. Well, thank you for answering.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Side note, Trish, did you see my message to you about the file?
I cannot see the chat.
Okay, well, because I don't have administrative functions, I don't have the share file button.
Oh, okay, we'll fix that in just a moment.
Okay.
Okay. The things we learn on Zoom. Okay. All right. Any other questions around level 5? Nope.
There's a question in chat, Trish. I know you can't read it. If you want to hear it.
Yes.
It says remedial questions. So when you say one, number 1 required, we only need to do 1, right?
Correct.
And they don't tell us which one is required. It can be any of them.
When you are presented with your choice of electives, you are required to complete 1 elective at level 5. Okay. You pick which one you're going to complete. There are also required projects at level 5 for your specific path, so not to confuse the two. They have required projects that you don't get a choice. You have to do those. And then you can choose 1 from a list of 6 electives, and you're required to do the requirements plus the 1 elective. Did I make it more confusing?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
The short answer was yes. You have to. It can be any of them.
It can be any of the it can be any of the electives to meet the 1 requirement. Yes. Okay, bad Trisha, bad Trisha.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, for example, if I'm on level 3, I can do some project from level 5 right now.
Yes.
Great, because I'd like to do volunteer organizations. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. The thing you have to remember is you can work ahead now in a path, but you cannot submit awards out of sequence. You must have submitted a level 1 in order to submit a level 2, in order to submit a level 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you could finish 5, but if you have not submitted level 1, 2, 3, and 4, the system will not let you finish level 5.
Trish, I have a question, another question. I understand the high performance leadership requires a 6 months long project. And does any other electives require, you know, a long commitment to completing?
As far as the electives are concerned, 6 months is the minimum on both the high performance leadership and the leading in your volunteer organization. None of the others, none of the others have a minimum time requirement on them.
Okay, so just those 2 then. Okay,
yes.
Great, thank you.
Trish, I have a question as well.
Yes.
So for the Speaking Professionally project, you mentioned that you had an opportunity and you did it. I'm assuming you have to have a Toastmaster evaluator.
Yes.
Okay, and then could your evaluator use a recording of your keynote to evaluate?
Ooh, really good question. Possible. I can't think of anything in the project description that would probably prevent it. As a VPE, I'd talk about it to be sure. You know, I just want to make sure I know what we're going to be using as a recording.
I would think that a recording would help the evaluator more because they could go back and replay it again to get more highlights of the speech.
Yes. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just thinking about the spirit of the purpose of the project. And I'm not seeing any reason I would object as a vice president of education. I'm thinking it's probably okay, but I would still want to talk to the member about, okay, what kind of a recording am I, listening to? Where was the event? That type of thing. I'd want to make sure that it meets the spirit of the keynote style speech, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Nope. All right, moving on. All right. Again, a reminder, if you joined late, there is a coaching tip sheet that we're going to make available to you. So don't jump off this call. Make sure you stick around until we can get that posted for you in the chat. It's also going to be available in the D3 Pathways online library about 30 minutes after we wrap this session. Just letting you know, you'll be able to get it in one place or the other. This is not something that you would give to a new member, put in a new member kit. This is detailed, designed to be used for coaching and mentoring. All right, so just I keep putting that caveat on it. I'm also going to tell you this, there is absolutely no rocket science in this document. Nothing is made up. It is exactly information that came straight off each of the project descriptions that are available in the tutorials and resources menu in Basecamp. Perusing the project descriptions is an admitted pain point because once you open them, they will auto-load to your transcript or your paths and learning, however you're referring to it now. And then you have to go in and archive them to get them off the list and reduce the noise on your transcript. I've already sent in that suggestion to World Headquarters that they change that, and they thanked me for my suggestion. We'll see if it ever becomes an enhancement. But just a reminder that I try to keep my transcript area as clean as possible so that I can move in quickly, get to what I want, and get out quickly. I'm not having to fish through lists. The matrix, of course, will help you in a hurry, and it's still beneficial to look at the full details that are in each of the project descriptions. And I was talking to a member just last week, and they were saying that they have such a hard time finding anything in the list, in the project descriptions list. And I said, okay, you do filter first for language. And they didn't know they could filter for language. So they said, okay, that's a big help right there. So anyway, I'm going to mention it because I don't know if you know about filtering for language so that you can reduce a lot of the noise when you go in there to look for something. Okay.
Hey, Trish.
Yeah.
What was it you said automatically downloads if you take a look at it?
If I go in to look at the project descriptions online, which I had to do to prepare this presentation, that means all 22 of them auto-loaded into my Pathways transcript, okay, my paths and learning area where your paths get loaded for you, okay. Every single one of these is considered like the mini module, and so they load there. And you end up with a big long list then of stuff in your transcript or paths and learning area. And that drives me personally buggy. Okay, no remarks about that I'm not saying already. All right, so it just drives me buggy. So what I have learned to do then is go back and take each one of those things that I was just perusing and didn't want to add to my learning list yet, and then archive it, and it will take it out of the active transcript and hold it in the archive transcript for me until I'm ready for it. But because there are 22 of them, I had 22 to go archive, and you can only do one at a time. So,
Chris,
that was my sacrifice. Yeah.
Trish?
Yeah.
When will this recording be up, and where will it be located?
Thank you for that perfect segue. Okay. In closing, just remember, with freedom comes responsibility. So your personalization is your choice based on your needs and your interests, but you are in the driver's seat when it comes to customizing your learning path and pathways. So to learn more, you can go out to the Pathways online library, which I've just told you about, where I'm going to be posting the video as soon as it's, not the video, I'm going to be posting the presentation and the coaching tip sheet as soon as I get done here. In publishing your podcast, I meant to tell you that Don Griffith, who hosts our Grand Canyon Echoes podcast channel, is very much interested in members who are doing the podcast project as possible recordings that he will publish through the podcast. So you can look for my personal one that I was telling you about, the Lazy Members Approach to Pathways, that will be coming soon because Don has agreed to publish my 60 minutes of material. For those of you who are looking to work on more of the electives, especially the advanced ones, please consider joining a club like Showtime Toastmasters. We have committed to being a 100% online club going forward. We do practice advanced evaluation skills, but because we are mastering the virtual space as part of our mission, we are very elective project friendly. We can have you be a workshop speaker, a blogger, work with our social media presence, lots of opportunities for you to work on some of these advanced projects. Plus, we still are grounded in the competitive and professional speaking development. YouTube is where we post the replays, and they will be posted this Friday, which would be the 7th of September at 12:15 a.m. because they're on a schedule. So you can look for this replay to be available to you this coming Friday. And
the channel's name is
Showtime TM. Right there on the screen. Okay. You can like us on Facebook and find out more about the events that we're doing as a club. And we have a whole list of our Fifth Monday workshops, as well as our new virtual Power Hour series that are out on our Register for Our Workshops page at the link that you see on this screen. So that gives you the YouTube channel, when it will be available, and all the other options that you can find through being involved with Showtime Toastmasters.
Trish.
Yes.
I've ran across this website, the D4 website. Have you looked at it with the Pathways and Projects?
I have not, but I'm writing it down.
Oh, I can post it for everyone. But this D4 is a San Francisco Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of smart people up there that are very computer savvy, as we all know. That's the Bay Area where everything comes from. But they have you can just click on things like like you're going to go into level 3,
mm-hmm.
and it lists all the projects, and you can just click on it, and it will tell you exactly what's in it. So you don't have to worry about going into your Pathways project yourself when it's all going to be there for you.
That is a possibility. D4 is very lucky to have a big, broad web team with lots of skills to keep their website so current. And
absolutely,
yeah, I wish we could do that here in District 3, but we just don't have that kind of volunteer power. So, so we do workshops like this to try to get you the tools then.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for sharing.
Another tool.
Okay. All right. So, are there any questions about anything that you're seeing on the screen? No?
So for that form, are we going to have to go to a link, or how are we going to get that form?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
The form that you were going to put the link in chat.
Yes, I had to get out of my presentation to be able to do that. So let me, at this point, stop the recording.